Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan here today again, talking to you about the 4th house in astrology today. So before we get started, I would like you to have a look at what sign is ruling your 4th house and what planets you have in there. And please leave a comment below because, this is a great learning experience for all of us. For, me learning more from you and from you also reading other people's comments and what experiences they have with their 4th house and kind of just learning from that. So it's a great learning experience here. So I would call the 4th house the house of our inner self, because this is when we are finally aware of the story of our ancestors, our family, and we become aware of the dynamics that was going on in our family home while we were growing up. And all of this helps us to really discover our inner selves and who we really are on the inside. But of course, there is always the kind of potential for us to understand that because there is a story within our family and our ancestry, and that is imprinted in our genetics and our DNA, that is actually a part of our conditioning. So it's up to us whether we want to, with gaining this awareness, whether we want to remain conditioned by our family and our ancestors, or do we want to decondition, decondition the ingrained habitual patterns of our family and become our own individual selfhood. And that's when we go up to the 10th house, the 4th and 10th house axis. Or, do we not want to do that? So that is what's going on here in our 4th house. So if we do, most of us are probably going to choose to kind of move away from our family a little bit, because our family is not our entire being, though they do give us a clue of, how we came to be us. But that's what's going on here with the midheaven. When you go up into your midheaven or the 10th house, go up to your 10th house, you begin to find your place in the world. But what we're doing here actually is we're going in a cycle. So we're going up to the midheaven, the 10th house, and finding our place in the world. But ultimately, we want to come back to our 4th house because we want to be able to take what we've gained from our reputation in the world, whether that be money or status or recognition, and we want to continue to build our home, build a family, our future family, our future homes in the 4th house. So another way of looking at the 4th house, or the IC, the Imam Coeli, which is, the cusp of the 4th house, whatever your IC is going to be the same sign as your 4th house. So that is going to also indicate, who we are at the end of the day. When we come home, after a day outside of work, the sign that rules our IC in our 4th house shows the archetypes that we adopt when we are alone, and when the things that we need to do in order to recharge our batteries and, find the energy to go out there again in the world the next day. So according to Howard Sespartus, who wrote the book, The 12 Houses, the planets and the sign on the 4th house also comes with a bit of an undealt with unconscious or subconscious issues that is kind of like the past comes back to haunt us in our adult lives. So if there's any planets there that, you haven't really, maybe has been the cause of some traumas during childhood or some stresses in childhood that you haven't kind of figured out or get to the root of, it's gonna come back to you subconsciously throughout your lives and kind of maybe hinder, the things that you want to do to take action within your life. So the ways that we can deal with the planets that come back and haunt us in our 4th house is by reflecting on it. So the 4th house offers us a place of reflection. We can meditate. The 4th house is about meditation and just being within a space that is just for you, so you can figure out, your inner self. Therapy is another thing that is common within the fourth house when you want to deal with planets that have not been dealt with in the past. And in terms of external factors, the fourth house, that's my dog. He's excited about something. He's always excited about something. So yeah, I guess you just have to listen to me while he's barking. So yeah, the external factors of the fourth house includes things like our actual home, the actual home that we live in, and the home that we want to build for ourselves in the future. And the signs there indicate our approach to our house, our home, right? So to quickly summarize, the fourth house is the awareness of the stories of our ancestors and the stories of what goes on in our childhood. And with this awareness, we take on a certain imprint, okay, of personality traits that were passed on into our DNA or into our, subconscious imprinted memories, which we can either choose to hold on to that, or we can choose to decondition from that and step into our individual selfhood. So this means that the fourth house also is indicative of our comfort zone, our inner self, and the things that we can do to stabilize our inner self. And with this being said, we translate this into our future home, the kind of home that we want to have for us in the future that's going to help us to gain a sense of stability and is going to correspond to our soul and who we are on the inside. So I hope that made some sense, guys. Okay, so to give you an example of my own placements, I have no planets in my fourth house, but I do have my black moon Lilith there, which I'll talk about later on. But my fourth house and my IC is ruled by Virgo, which means my midheaven, and my 10th house is ruled by Pisces. So with having a Virgo on the IC, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is the planet of movement, changes. So there was a lot of moving around when I was younger. I lived in different places, not because I wanted to, but because, of my parents' job. And yeah, so I think when I was 3 years old, I moved abroad for the first time. I went from Thailand to Kuwait. And then after that, I moved back to Thailand, and I lived in my grandparents' home, and then I came to live with my parents when they moved back to Thailand. And at 7 years old, I moved to Norway, and we lived there for 4 years, and we changed our house twice when we were living in Norway. And and then I came back to Thailand. So yeah, that's basically there was just a lot of changes going on in my childhood, and my parents always had guests coming over and things, and it was pretty chaotic. So when I look at my Mercury, which is ruled by Virgo, and it's in the 12th house, this is indicative of the fact that when my parents were, doing all these things and they were bringing people home and stuff, I did not have enough privacy, so I was kind of feeling a bit left out, so I was left to be alone in my room a lot of the times, 12th house Mercury, to just kind of do my own thing, like reading or drawing and just things like that. And that is one of the reasons why I absolutely love to read. That is a very 4th house Virgo thing, I suppose. Like my inner self, when I'm at home and no one's looking, it's like this constant need for stimulation of information that I need to gather, like in a Virgo way. So I'm like reading this and reading that, and I just love to read. Besides from loving to read, I think that having Virgo here also makes me kind of researching a lot. When I first got into astrology, like 8 years ago, I didn't buy any astrology books yet, but I would search online, and I basically went through every single possible website that there was on the internet just to read everything about astrology and get as much information as I could get without having to buy books. But I'm just constantly trying to find new websites that would give me different information about astrology until I couldn't find any more. And when I was searching, it's like, oh, I've already been to this website. Oh, I've already read from this website. So And then I started buying astrology books and things like that. So on to Black Moon Lilith. Oh, this is a very strange place to be having Black Moon Lilith, and it's actually in the sign of Libra. So it's not in Virgo, it's in Libra, in the 5th house. Sorry, in the 4th house. So in order for us to really understand Black Moon Lilith, I would have to tell you a little bit about her story. So in the myth of Adam and Eve, the first man and woman on earth, Adam had a wife before Eve, and his wife was Lilith. But Lilith, so they lived together, right? But Adam wanted Lilith to be submissive to him because she was a woman. So he would want her to lie beneath him, according to the story, that's what it says, lie beneath him during their sexual activities. But Lilith refused. She wanted to either lie beside him or even lie above him. So this part of the story, okay, is indicative of how Lilith strives for equality between men and women, which is admirable, of course. But the next part of the story is when it gets pretty crazy. So when Adam refused to let Lilith lie beside him, he just wanted her to lie beneath him, Lilith ran away from Adam, and she took revenge on him by having having sexual experiences with a lot of men until she produced about 100 children, and she just basically ran away. Now, there were these angels, 3 angels that were sent to find Lilith, okay, and they were given the task of bringing her back to Adam. But Lilith refused to come back to Adam, and these 3 angels told Lilith that if they didn't come back, they would kill each of her children, 1 child every day. And Lilith still refused to come back, but instead what she did was she went and killed Adam's children to take revenge. So this part of the Lilith story, okay, is the representation of Black Moon Lilith. There's 3 Lilith. There's Black Moon, there's Dark Moon, and there's the asteroid Lilith. The asteroid Lilith is representative of the first part of the story where she was trying to gain equality between men and women. But this part where she psychologically became a little bit distorted psychologically and tried to take revenge in a distorted way. Even just taking revenge in general is pretty distorted in itself, but by Lilith doing it this way, this is indicative of some psychological wound that she acted out in very kind of dark and vicious way, acting out on her dark side, basically. So this is the part that is representative of the Black Moon Lilith, and that's what I got going on in my 4th house in Libra. And we all have Black Moon Lilith somewhere, guys. So, yeah. So with everything that I've said so far, the 4th house being the house of the family and the ancestors and things, okay, I'm gonna try to explain this to you guys in a way I'm not going into too much detail because I probably shouldn't. It's family stuff, but with enough detail for you to kind of understand how this energy works. So there was a bit of vengeful darkness related to my family, okay, and it stems from both my parents, my dad and my mom. My dad had to face several he faced some death, okay, not himself, but with some people that he was very close to, and he was the witnessing of the death in the most cruel and horrible way that you could imagine. So he carried that darkness with him, and he was also exposed to someone very close to him who had mental illness, severe mental illness, that led to some violence. And I think these 2 experiences really was kind of imprinted within him. So he sought to compensate for this, you know, trauma by having a family, by thinking that, okay, having a family is going to kind of bring some light, you know, into his past. And there's nothing wrong with that, really. I mean, lots of people, you know, have children, have families to kind of compensate for something that they were lacking. But I really believe that, you know, we can't really seek external situations to fix our internal wounds. You know, we've got to really look within ourselves and fix it from inside there. Because by doing this, we are still carrying our darkness with us. With this external event that we are trying to bring to our lives, we're carrying the darkness into that experience. So there were kind of things that my dad did, you know, when I was growing up, which I think he did out of wanting to, like Lilith, right? How she wanted to kind of take revenge or to get equality for what happened to her in the past. And he wanted to do that as well. He wanted to gain a sense of equilibrium or equality for, you know, what happened with him in the past, but the way that he acted out, you know, in my childhood and things was not necessarily healthy, you know. This is when one part of us is becoming so imbalanced and we're just trying to balance it with another part, but it's involving other people, or it's not going about it, the balance in a healthy way, that's very kind of Black Moon Lilith-y-ish. So yeah, the fourth house being the house of home, another story I wanted to kind of just maybe tell you a little bit about is how there was a time in my life back in like 2014, so it was like 5 years ago, where I was involved in a relationship and I was living with this guy, okay? And there was a lot of kind of domestic abuse going on within the household that we were living in, which is very Lilith, fourth housey-ish. So, yeah, but there was a lot of inequality within the home, where of course I was like the passive one, he was the more aggressive one, I was like the submissive one, and he was like the dominant one. And I wanted to get back at him for that, and I did it in an unhealthy, Lilith-like manner. There was no cheating, okay, I didn't cheat, there was no cheating involved, but it was more of like, oh, you're gonna tell me what to do, well, then I'll tell you what to do in return. You're gonna shout at me, well, I'm gonna shout at you in return. You're gonna control me, you're gonna manipulate me, I'm gonna manipulate and I'm gonna control you in return. It was that kind of very unhealthy situation, and I'm not proud of it. But, you know, the struggle, you know, I can kind of feel Lilith's struggle with this. And of course she's way more extreme than, you know, me or my dad. But there are healthy ways to gain equality, and that doesn't involve revenge. And I had to learn my lesson the hard way, basically, and my dad probably had to learn his lesson the hard way as well. So, yeah. So it was kind of like, instead of using my higher self, you know, to fight back, to gain equality, I was using my lower self or my dark side to gain equality, and I shouldn't have. But I learned that the hard way. So yeah, with Lilith being in the sign of Libra, you know, there is another dark quality to me. It's like, this is like a video talking about my dark side. It's kind of uncomfortable, but you know, it's who we are. We have a dark side, you know, and by like not being aware of the dark side, we are allowing it to creep up on us. But if we're aware of it, we shine light on it, then it can't creep up on us, you know, because we can see it for what it is. So yeah, So this Lilith and Libra thing, you know, has this theme of wanting to be admired, wanting to be liked by people in the public, which has its repercussions because there was a time in my life where I would do a lot of things to be liked and admired. And there was a period in my life where it kind of got out of hand because, you know, I would meet people and I'd want to just be liked by them. So I was friendly and I was nice and I was, you know, doing all these things, and they were getting mixed messages from me, and they thought that, you know, oh, she wanted something more, or she was like coming on and things like that. It's a really weird situation. And then it got way too much. So I started to kind of realize that I should, maybe this is not the healthiest way to do it, but I started cutting people out of my life and started becoming very stoic to people just because I didn't want them to think something that I wasn't trying to convey, right? This is so vague. I don't know if this makes any sense. This is sounding pretty vague, but okay, yeah. And I had to learn that I don't have to be stoic to people, okay? I can just be myself. Stop trying to be somebody that people are supposed to like. Just be myself. If they like it, that's fine. If they don't like it, at least I'm being myself, and that's okay. Lilith has a way of making you learn things the hard way, guys. It really does. So yeah, that's my take on the 4th house. Thanks for listening, guys. And if you have any planets in the 4th house, of course, leave a comment below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet to see more astrology content. And if you've already subscribed, thank you very much for coming along with me on these astrology growth journeys, learning together. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.